17. Verse 32, the New Living Translation declares, "Don't worry about this Philistine," David told Saul. "I'll go and fight him." "Don't be ridiculous," Saul replied. "There's no way you can fight this Philistine and possibly win. You're just a young man. He's been a man of war since his youth." But David persisted. I like that. David said, "Don't worry about this giant. I'll go and fight him." You can be seated. I'll go and fight him. You and I must come to the understanding that we are believers of God through our relationship with Jesus Christ. And that we are put in a position in which God is orchestrating every event and occurrence, every situation, every day, every second. God is involved in our lives. And nothing can happen to us without Him being aware of it, without Him giving permission for it to occur, or without Him being totally involved in it. We as believers, we have to grow and understand that the days are far gone for us to be Christians who stand and sit behind these doors and hope and wish and pray for things to change. But we are Christians who go out and produce change, to make things happen, to get involved so that we might be recipients of the blessings and promises of God. You and I can no longer be passive observers about life, that whatever happens, it happens. Whatever's going on, I can't change it. Things are the way they are. They were like that for my parents and my grandparents, so they're going to be like that for me. That kind of believer is out of style. God is raising believers who are involved actively in their life as God has spoken promise over them and destined over them. We have to be believers who stand up every day and say, today is a great day for me to fulfill what God has planned for me. I shall not walk in defeat, but I shall walk in victory today because I have God with me. You ought to be a believer that wakes up every day and say, this is the day that the Lord has made. Beyond my bills, beyond my circumstances, I will be glad and rejoice in it. In essence, God is lifting you and I to levels that He holds us responsible for so that we can get all that He has for us. And in order for you and I to get the best that God has for us, we have to deal with ourselves in a real way. In a way that will cause us to look beyond our own strengths and abilities and trust and depend on God. God is interested in you becoming stronger each Sunday, each month, every day. He wants your faith to grow. He allows things to come so that the challenges may lift you to another level. And sometimes, if not all the time, you and I are really going to have to roll up our sleeves and fight for what God has promised us. You said fight? Yeah, Pastor. You said fight. I said fight because we as believers, we want to lay down and sit and wait for things to change, but God is calling you and I to get up and stand on our feet and fight for the right changes to happen in our lives. You just can't pray and wish and hope things don't change. You got to pray and get up and do something about it. Get up and send that email, make that phone call, talk to that person, have that serious conversation, because you're not living to die, but you're living to live again so that you can experience the best days that God has for your life. I don't mean to rush, but I want us to be able to understand that in order for you and I to get this next level blessing, we might have to get involved and get dirty and fight for what God has promised us. There's nothing wrong with fighting for what you believe belongs to you. Don't allow the enemy to take what God has given you and allow it to be his or hers when God has ordained it to be for you. We must, it's important, it's imperative that we walk in the destiny that God has for us. Your life is not a mistake. Where you are is not by happenstance. God has a promise over your head that you have to walk in every day, realizing that what God promised you, it is for you. Listen, before I get ahead of myself, every great struggle had to happen after somebody decided that they were not going to take it sitting down, but they were going to get up and do something about it. Even Rosa Parks, in the years when segregation was so violently going forth, she decided to take a stand and fight by sitting down on that bus seat and said, I shall not be moved. I'm not going to deal with this anymore. I'm going to sit and stand and fight for what I believe in. You and I must do the same thing when it comes to our families, when it comes to our fortune, when it comes to what God has promised. We cannot sit down and let things happen. We got to stand up and begin to say, God, if you're for me, you're greater than those who stand against me. Nothing shall come against me that shall overtake me. David had to do what you and I must do even now. We got to fight for the blessing, fight for the promise, fight for what God has destined us to do, and be persistent. Let me give you a little historical setting here before we move any further. Here, David is a shepherd boy, and he's keeping watch over his father's sheep. And God had spoke promise over David's life. God had spoke promise that David was going to be a great leader, that he was going to be the next king of Israel. But in his present situation, he was just keeping sheep and goats and feeding them, and it had really no connection to what God had promised him. But David had to realize later on in life that everything that he did before he became king had something to do with the purpose that God destined him to be. What you saying, Pastor? I'm saying God has given you a promise, a dream, aspirations, and goals, and you're not there yet, and where you are doesn't seem like nothing connected to it. But let me let you in on a little secret. What God got you going through now, it is for your good in the future. It is preparing you and shaping you and developing you and growing you so that when that opportunity knocks on the door, you'll be ready to say, I've been here before and I know that he was a shepherd keeping sheep, but during this time Israel was fighting the Philistines. They were the people of God's worst enemy. And they were now in a place where they had to either fight or run in fear. They was on one mountain, the people of God, and the Philistines was on the other mountain. And in between them was a valley. And the Israelites stood on that side, and the Philistines stood on that side. And this giant, this Goliath, as we came to know him in our early days, was standing in the valley, hollering at the people of God, saying, send me somebody that will fight for your God. Send me somebody that will come in and fight me. And if he wins, we'll serve you. If we win, you got to serve us. And the whole army of Israel standing in fear of the giant that was in the valley. And David is a shepherd boy. And his father during that time sent him to go check on his brothers who were in the army. He said, go take them some bread and some crush and some grain and bring me word about how the battle is going. Watch this now. And David said, you want me to go check on him? He said, yeah, go to the mountain and check on him. David got his little bag and put the food in it and went up the hillside, headed up the mountain to go check on his brothers and to see how the battle was going. And when he got there, he got to the camp and his brothers began to say, what you doing here? You don't belong here. You're not supposed to be up on this mountain fighting and ready to go to battle. He said, I didn't come to fight. He said, I came because Daddy sent me to check on y'all and to bring y'all some bread. And while he was there, he heard this giant in the valley shouting insults to the kingdom and to the children of God. And David began to say, what's going on here? What's happening here? And his brother said, listen, you need to get off this mountain and go back home and keep watch over those few sheep that you have, because you'll never get on this mountaintop. Let me throw the first thing out of here. In order for you to get the blessing that God wants you to have, you have to learn to overcome discouragement. You got to learn to overcome people who criticize you and people who talk about you and think that you're less than who you are based on your style, your age, your look, your shape, your income. They don't define you. God has spoken destiny over your life. God has declared that you are somebody and that he has a plan for you. And when the moment arrives, listen, your greatest critics can be people close to you. Can I help you here? Your greatest discouragers can be people who are close to you, who really don't want to see you get further along life than they are. Pastor, stop messing with my stuff. Yeah, I'm going to mess with your stuff because I want you to get your stuff together. Because this next blessing that God has for you, it might cause you to step out from people around you and become what God has destined you to be. They said, David, you need to go home. You just a shepherd boy. You need to go home. You don't belong here. You ever heard that before? That you can't get in that club, you can't get in that organization, you can't go there, you can't belong, because people will put you in boxes and try to fit you in boxes that God didn't make for you. I wish I had some young people that don't let other folk define who you are. God declares who you are, and you can't let folk box you in. And listen, I remember as a high school senior, our school back then, they had certain picks. You had the smart folk, and then you had people like me. and it came close to graduation. And the first time I met my high school counselor was that time. I didn't know him. Didn't know her in the 9th grade, didn't know her in the 10th grade, didn't know who she was, and I didn't know where her office was. So it is, and you had to do it when you was a senior because it was a requirement. You had to meet with your counselor. They sit down and go over your transcripts, go over all your grades and see if you're ready to graduate and all that kind of stuff. But I did my little work, I hung out, but I did my little work. You know, I did what I could do. But anyway, when I went in the office, you know, I sat there. She took out my little transcript, you know, just took it out and started looking at it. And she said, what are your plans? I said, I want to go to college. She looked again. She said, what are your plans? I said, I want to go to Old Dominion University. You know what she said to me? She said, no, based on, you know, what I see here and what I know about Old Dominion University, you're not a good match. You don't reach their standards. I forget the word she used, but you know what she's saying. I wasn't good enough to go to Old Dominion. She recommended I go to a trade school. And listen, if I had listened to her, I would be, ain't nothing wrong with a mechanic, but I would be greasy right now. Ain't nothing wrong with a baker, but I'll be in somebody's kitchen if I had listened to her. But I know what God told me. And watch this, 4 years later, I was walking across the graduation stage of Old Dominion University. 2 years later, I was walking across the stage of Virginia Union. 2 years later, somebody said, don't let nobody tell you what you can and cannot do. Somebody said, you're God's child. You're God's child. You've been chosen. You've been called. God already got the door wide open. You just got to say, I'm ready. Listen, I didn't have the grades, but I know I could get the grades. I didn't have the money, but I knew God made the promise. What you saying, Pastor? Don't worry about what you have. Put your trust in God and get yourself in place and say, God, I'm just going to see how you going to work this out. I'm just going to your next blessing ain't gonna be predicated on your last name or where you grew up or what you've been through. This next blessing is you stand right now saying, God, I'm gonna trust you to get me to that next level. I find somebody and say, forget about what they say. Don't worry about what they say. What about what they say? Because they say, who is this that's in the valley speaking against the people of God? They said it's a giant. It's Goliath. I'm going to visit this and then I'm going to get out of here. It's a giant. They said, well, a giant. You know, and Goliath, you know, he was a giant because he was about 10 feet tall. Had all of this armor on, and bronze plate and bronze shield, and looked like a gladiator. And all David had was little shepherd shoes. And listen. Where did giant come from? Now, you and I, we got some giants in our lives that's separating us from being who God called us to be and from receiving the blessing that God has for us. And I don't know what your giant is, but your giant could be an addiction. Your giant could be a lifestyle. Your giant could be financial problems. Your giant can be some illness, something in your past that keeps coming up, that keeps bothering you. Some giant. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. But whatever giant it is, you got to name it, and you got to begin to deal with it. I'm all right, Pastor. No, you're not. Because watch this. Giants don't go away. They get stronger. Israel had faced these Philistine giants when they were about to go in the promised land. And Joshua had sent a couple of spies in to say, go and tell us what you see. Two of them say, we see land flowing with milk and honey. We see grapes and pomegranates. But 10 of them said, we see men who look like giants and we look like grasshoppers. And you know what they did? They turned around and didn't go get the promise. They left, and it took them 40 years to get what God had promised them. Look at your neighbor and say, don't wait to deal with you. If you don't deal with it, that giant will come up on you again. I got some. Boy, and it never fails. And it'll leave you in worse shape than you ever been. So David said, I got to deal with this giant so that I can become what God created me to be. What you saying, Pastor? A giant. Check this out. If you don't get nothing else, get this. Is anything that separates you from what God has for you. A giant is anybody who stands in between what God has for you. And what's it? Some things God is not going to move out of your way. Some things you're going to have to get down in the valley and fight to get through so that you can get what God has for you. That's all I want to say. That this next blessing, you might have to get down with your giant and say, from this day forward, one of us gonna leave out here a winner, and one of us gonna leave out here a loser. And if I lose, you gonna know you've been in a hell of a fight. If I fall, you gonna know that you got some stopping on you, that I hit you, that I kick you, that I scream and holler. Look at somebody and say, you got to learn how to fight for your blessing. Fight for what God has for you. We got to go to that soccer match about to come on. Got to see them kick. But listen. You cannot be. You got to defeat, the discouragement and the criticism of others. And here it is. I'm there. David said to the king, don't worry, I'll go and fight him. What'd you say there? He said, I'll go and fight him. I said, well, you don't know about war. You just know about sheep. You're not qualified for this position. You don't have enough education. You're not from the right family. You didn't grow up in the capital of Jerusalem. You grew up in the projects on the backside of the valley. You're not
to fight this giant? David said, well, I don't care about your qualifications, but I need to let you know that I may not have fought this giant, but I have had some fights in my life. Great God Almighty. Watch this. In other words, David has said, I'm not going to let you define me based on your qualifications for me. I've already been qualified by God to be here right now. Great God from Zion. Look at somebody and say, everybody else ran and was scared. David said, it's my time to step up. Opportunity will knock at your door. Somebody right now, opportunity is knocking on your door. What you gonna do? You gonna pray like you got it home? You gonna send your children to the door? No, you gotta get up like a man, like a woman, and say, I've been waiting. I've been wanting this opportunity. I've been praying that God would bring me to this place and open the door and say, ready or not? Here I am. Talk about it, tell them, open the door. What looks like negativity, what looks like fear, what looks like defeat, open the door and say, no, this is my opportunity to rise up and be. I'm going to quit what God wants me to do. Somebody tell them, don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't hide. Don't sit behind somebody. Don't say all the stuff I done been through, all the mess I done had to deal with, all the put down and let down I got to deal with. God, if this is my way out, I'm ready to take it. I'm ready. Keep my mind. I'm ready to take it. I'm ready to take it. I'm ready to take it. You're not ready. You're not. David said, King, I want to do it. King said, don't be ridiculous. You stupid. You know, are you crazy? Sometimes we don't know the potential in each other. And we'll call each other out. And it means no good. We do it all the time as parents. We try to get our children to do what we think they ought to be doing. But God got something that we don't really know or understand just yet. So we got to give it. David said, no, King, I'll go. He said, no, it's ridiculous. You can't go. But it said David kept on persistent. He said, no, it's my time. It's my chance. Because I know that I got here and I'm here for a reason. He said, what you mean, David? You never fought no giant. He said, but one day, while I was keeping my daddy's few sheep, a bear came along and grabbed one of the little lambs, and all I had was my staff and a rock. He said, you know, I hit that bear and knocked him out. The king said, oh yeah? He said, yeah. He said, and another incident, a lion came and grabbed one of my little sheep and took him away. He said, I chased that lion down and hit him in the head and cut his neck, and I stood over top of him. He said, I may not have fought in this battle. He said, but I've been through some stuff, and I got stories of my own. I've been in here to say you didn't get where you are just out of the blue, but you got some soul. You got some stuff behind you. You've been through some things. It ain't always been like it is. You know what the Lord It's already done. Look at somebody and say, I know you got a soul, right? I know I got a soul, right? We ain't got time to swipe stories. We ain't got time. I don't got time. You don't have time for me. But one thing we know, that we come this far. Where you living there, you ain't always living. What you driving there, you ain't always driving. When you working there, you ain't always had that job. But you trusted God. God stepped in your life and opened doors and people stepped and moved. It's important. It's important. Got some money in my pocket. I need to see. I'm trying to get somewhere. David said, no, I will fight because I've been in fights before. This ain't the first time. Might have came up short this month. This ain't the first time. I don't know how I'm going to pay my light bill. It's not the first time that I've been in between jobs. It's not the first time that the weight was so heavy on my shoulder I should have lost my mind. It's not the first time that I had to find myself and encourage myself. What you saying, Pastor? Don't act like what's in your life now is the first time something's been in your way. You've been through some things, but God has been faithful. He said, okay, you go on down. I want to do that. I'll quit. Go on down. He said, King Saul said, now, David, before you go, take my arm. Right. Saul pulled off his bronze shield, and his bronze plates, and his spear. And they put it on David and started dressing David. Said, if you're going to go, you're going to have to look like one of us. You're going to have to look like us. You're going to have to have the same stuff we got. And so David got this stuff on, and it was a little heavy because David wasn't that big. And he took a step. Couldn't hardly move. Took another step. Just was uncomfortable. Just couldn't get the shoes didn't feel good. You know, the breastplate was a little loose, and the spear was a little too heavy. They said, go on, David. David kept trying to go, but then David stopped and said, wait a minute. He started undressing this. They said, what you doing, David? David said, I can't use this stuff. I can't use it. It's not what I'm used to. I know y'all want me to be like you. I know you want me to look like you. I know you want me to, you know how we do it, church. I know you want me to talk like you. I know you want me to shout like you. I know you want me to be clean cut, but I got a tattoo here, and I got an earring there, and I got my pants funny, and my stuff is tight, and I can't be like you. I can only be who I am. Tell the neighbor, you don't have to be like nobody else. Just be who God calls you to be. David said, I got to take this arm off, and I got to use what I've been used to. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. David said, I got to use what has worked for me in the past. What you saying, David? What you saying, Pastor? God has given you everything you need to get that blessing. You ain't got to use nobody else's stuff. You ain't got to depend on nobody else's agenda. You ain't got to work it like somebody else wants you to work it. God anointed you with the right stuff to get the job done. Don't you let them put your children. Don't you let them put your... Somebody tell them your stuff is enough. You are anointed to get what God promised. Saint David said, Saul, I can't use your stuff. Your stuff was for a warrior. My stuff is for a shepherd. Your stuff is what has me. My stuff is for right now. Your stuff is for fighting again. My stuff is for getting a victory. Your stuff is for fear. My stuff is for faith. Your stuff is unfamiliar. My stuff has been tried, tested, and it works. I saw somebody say, I'm tried. And God steps in right on time. Just stand and say, here I am. I'm ready. I'm ready for the next level. Tell them you don't need no sword. You got the word. And the word says if God be for you, there's nobody. I got to quit. But I remember as a little boy, my grandma used to say, 1, 2, 3.